I never thought I'd be the guy to walk in on my wife cheating on me, especially not in the way I did. We'd been together for about 5 years. Marina and I, she's gorgeous, smart, and I honestly thought we had a good thing going. We'd been through a lot, long-distance jobs, family dramas, the usual ups and downs. But about 6 months ago, things started feeling different. She grew more distant, snapping at me over small things, and always had an excuse for why we couldn't spend time together. At first, I thought it was just stress. She's a bitch when she's stressed, so I shrugged it off. But then I noticed her phone was more locked than usual, and she'd get defensive if I even tried to glance at it. She'd also start leaving her phone behind when she went to the bathroom, which wasn't normal. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I felt something was off. I tried talking to her about it, but she'd brush me off, say I was paranoid or making things up. That's when I started paying more attention, trying to catch little clues. One night I was out of town. On a relief mission, we're both involved in humanitarian work, volunteering overseas. It's a cause I care about deeply, and she's been supportive of it, or so I thought. I called her late that night, and she answered looking flustered, her voice a little too bright. She said she was just hanging out with her friends, having wine, nothing special. But when I asked who she was with, she hesitated, then said her best friend Emily was over. I knew Emily, but I'd never heard of any other friends coming over at that hour. That was weird, but I let it go. I was busy and she seemed fine. But then the next day I noticed her texts were different, more flirtatious, more playful, with someone I didn't recognize. I brushed it off, telling myself maybe I was reading too much into it, but my gut was screaming at me. I started to dig, going through her messages when she wasn't around. That's when I found it. A string of conversations with a guy named Josh, her translator during our mission in Africa. They'd been chatting a lot, more than just work stuff. It wasn't just friendly banter, there were emojis, flirtatious innuendos, and plans to meet after I'd gone back home. What made it worse is that she lied about him. She told me at first that she barely knew him, that he was just a colleague, a friend. But the messages told a different story. They'd been sneaking around behind my back, using the language barrier as an excuse to hide what they were doing. She kept saying she was helping him with his English, but the text said otherwise. They'd been hooking up, exchanging explicit messages, talking about sex, even planning to meet again. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. The betrayal hit me hard. I dedicated myself to helping people abroad, trusting her to support me and stay faithful. Instead, she's been sneaking around with this guy, lying every step of the way. I was furious, but mostly just hurt. How could she do this? After all the talk about honesty, about being partners. I'm not a perfect guy, but I believed in us. And now I felt like I was nothing but a fool. I didn't confront her right away. I just needed some time to process how deep this really went. But I knew I couldn't let it slide. I had to decide what to do next. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. How could she lie so blatantly? It wasn't just about the cheating. It was the way she lied with such arrogance, like I was just some idiot who wouldn't find out. I started noticing other little things, her avoiding my gaze, her frequent excuses about needing me time, and that cold, defensive attitude whenever I pressed her about her whereabouts or her phone. One day I came back home earlier than expected. I figured I'd surprise her, see if she was really alone or if she was out with him. I didn't expect to catch her in the act, but I also knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I slipped into the apartment quietly, trying not to make a sound. That's when I saw her. She was in the bedroom, half dressed, and there was Josh, this guy she'd been texting behind my back, on top of her. They were tangled together, lips locked, hands everywhere. I froze, my stomach twisting. It was worse than I imagined. The sight was searing. I saw her bitchy smirk when she noticed me, like she'd been waiting for me to walk in. She didn't even bother to hide it, just looked at me like I was some kind of inconvenience. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I trusted, cheating on me with this guy who she told me she barely knew. It was like my entire world crumbled in that moment. I didn't make a sound. I turned around and left without saying a word. I needed to process what I'd just seen. My mind was racing. Anger, humiliation, heartbreak. How could she be so callous? I'd spent years building this life, this relationship, and she was out there throwing it away with some translator I'd never even met. When I finally sat down to think, I realized I couldn't just let this go. I was furious, but I also felt betrayed on a level I'd never felt before. I thought about all the times she'd lied, all the moments she'd hidden things from me. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was about respect, about honesty, about what kind of person she really was. I decided I had to confront her. I wanted answers, but I also wanted her to know I wasn't some sucker who turned the other cheek forever. I didn't sleep that night, replaying everything I saw and trying to figure out my next move. I also knew I needed to be smart. This wasn't just about catching her. It was about making her pay for the betrayal she'd inflicted on me, even if I wasn't sure what that looked like just yet. The next day, I arranged a quiet moment and I sat her down. Her face was already full of that bitchy, defiant attitude. I could tell she was trying to act innocent or maybe just dismiss me altogether. But I was done playing nice. I laid everything out, the texts, the photos I secretly took, the fact that I knew about the affair. Her eyes widened for a moment, then she started to lie again, throwing out excuses, denying everything, insisting I was crazy or jealous. She told me it was just sex, that it meant nothing, that I was overreacting and that I was paranoid. That's when I lost it. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I had the proof. I told her. I knew about Josh, about the nights they spent together, about the explicit messages. Her reaction. She called me crazy, said I was imagining things, that I was abusive for even accusing her. She started crying, then turned it around on me, said I was the one who was distant, who didn't pay enough attention, and that she was just trying to find comfort somewhere. Yeah, right. Comfort with the guy who she was sneaking around with behind my back. I felt like I was watching someone else's life. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was a liar, a cheat, and a bitch. The hurt was overwhelming, but what stung the most was her ability to lie so convincingly, to twist everything around so I doubt my own perception. I was furious, but I also felt empty. Like all the trust I'd given her was just garbage thrown into the wind. I didn't punch her, didn't yell yet, but I was ready. I knew I had to decide then and there what to do, to stay and forgive or to walk away. And honestly, I didn't know which one was worse. After that confrontation, everything seemed to spiral even faster. Out of control. I couldn't get the image of her with Josh out of my head. It kept replaying in my mind like a sick movie I couldn't turn off. The betrayal cut so deep, I started questioning everything, myself, our relationship, whether I ever really knew her at all. She kept crying and insisting she was sorry, that it was just a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to happen. But her words felt hollow. Sorry doesn't fix the fact that she'd been sneaking around behind my back for months. I remember sitting there, staring at her, trying to find some shred of remorse or guilt, but all I saw was that bitchy smirk, like she was proud of her little secret. I wasn't naive. I knew women like her. She always had a way of spinning shit into a story that suited her. She lied about everything, about her contacts, her whereabouts, even about her feelings. She'd always been manipulative, but this was next level. My mind was racing. I couldn't stay married to someone who would do this, but I also knew I didn't want to just destroy everything without thinking it through. I needed a plan. I started thinking about the best way to handle her, how to make her regret what she'd done without making the situation worse. I wanted her to see that she couldn't get away with cheating and lying like that. I had to do something, but I didn't want to blow up my own life without a backup plan. The first thing I did was to gather more evidence. I wanted her to understand I wasn't just blowing hot air. I installed a hidden app on her phone, nothing invasive, just enough to get a sense of her location and messages without her noticing. I knew it was risky, but I couldn't keep wondering if she was sneaking out again or meeting him. That night I checked the app and saw her. She'd gone to some hotel alone. Then I saw the messages from Josh popping up again. It was confirmed. The affair was ongoing and I had the proof to make her squirm. The following days were hell. I was angry, trying to hide it at first, but I couldn't keep it inside. Every time I saw her, I felt this mix of disgust and pain. I kept thinking about the betrayal, how she used her charm to lie and manipulate me. I wondered how long she'd been doing this, how many nights she'd spent with him, and whether she'd ever really loved me or if I was just convenient. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was more calculated. I didn't want her to think she could lie her way out of it again. I told her I knew everything, about the messages, about the hotel, about Josh. She tried to deny it, but I showed her the evidence on my phone. Her reaction was a mixture of anger, denial, and just pure bitchiness. She yelled, called me crazy, said I was paranoid, told me I was just insecure because I wasn't satisfying her. That comment made my blood boil. If she knew how much I'd been doing for her, supporting her, working myself to the bone, she wouldn't have the nerve to say that. In the middle of all this, I realized I couldn't keep pretending to be okay. I couldn't keep living with someone who thought she could lie and cheat without consequences. I started planning my next move. I decided that I wasn't going to just walk away quietly. No, I wanted her to see what she'd lost, and I wanted her to regret it deeply. I needed her to feel the pain of betrayal as I had, because right now I was just empty, like a shell of the man I used to be. I made up my mind to confront her again, but this time differently. I wanted to lay everything out, make her understand that I knew she was a lying, cheating bitch, and that I was done tolerating her bullshit. I also started thinking about how to get even, how to make her feel the same hurt she'd given me, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. My goal wasn't just revenge. It was to make her realize she'd lost the best thing she ever had. But even as I planned this, part of me still hoped she'd break down and admit everything. Part of me still wanted to believe there was some humanity left in her. That hope was fading fast, though. The more I saw her try to lie her way out of it, the clearer it became. This isn't just about cheating. It's about her arrogance, her bitchy attitude, her complete disregard for what she was doing to us. And I was done being the fool. The night I finally decided to face her again, I was calm on the outside but boiling inside. I knew I had enough proof now, enough reason to make her understand just how badly she'd screwed up. I didn't want to scream or yell, at least not yet. I wanted her to see I was serious, that I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I sat her down in the living room with everything laid out in front of her, screenshots of her messages, the hotel location, the times I checked the app. I had her backed into a corner, and I could see that flicker of panic in her eyes. She tried her usual tricks, denial, shifting blame, calling me insecure and jealous. She even had the nerve to say she'd never cheated on me, that I was twisting things because I didn't understand her, that she was just helping her friend with his English, and that I was the one who was paranoid. But I didn't buy any of it. I told her she could keep lying, but I knew the truth. I told her I had been patient, that I'd given her the benefit of the doubt for months, but now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could get away with anything. Her face twisted with anger when she realized I wasn't buying her bullshit. She started screaming, throwing accusations back at me, saying I was neglectful, that I was never around, that I didn't satisfy her. She called me insecure again, said I was just jealous because she was beautiful and she knew how to use her looks. I just sat there, silent, letting her have her tantrum. Honestly, I felt nothing but a deep, cold rage. That rage made me realize I needed to do more than just confront her. I needed to make her regret this, to give her a taste of what she'd done to me. That's when I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. I told her I knew about her affair with Josh, that I had all the evidence and that I was done pretending. I said she was selfish, a liar and a cheating bitch, and I was going to end things. I told her she could pack her bags and leave, or she could stay and face the consequences. Her response was to call me a jealous psycho, to accuse me of ruining everything, to say I was overreacting. But I saw the cracks in her arrogance. She knew I wasn't going to just forgive her anymore. That night, she packed her bags in that bitchy, defiant way she always did when she was angry. She kept sneering at me, telling me I'd regret this, that she'd find someone better, that she'd move on and forget me. I didn't care about her empty threats. What mattered was that I was finally standing up to her. I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak as she left, knowing I'd lost someone I loved, but also knowing I'd finally taken control of the situation. No more lies, no more secrets. I was done being played. The next few days were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to keep busy and avoid thinking about her. But I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. It hurt knowing she'd used her beauty and her bitchy attitude to manipulate me, to hide her affair, using language, barriers, and her own lies to keep Josh hidden. I kept replaying everything, wondering how I'd missed the signs, how I had trusted someone so fundamentally dishonest. It was a brutal lesson in how little I knew her, how much I'd been blind to her true nature. In a strange way, I felt a little lighter too, like a weight had been lifted, even though I was broken inside. I realized I'd been an idiot to stay so long, to ignore all the signs because I loved her. But love doesn't mean putting up with being lied to or cheated on. I learned that the hard way. Now I was forced to start over, rebuild what I lost, and figure out how to move on from this mess. Deep down, I knew this experience was going to change me, make me more cautious, more guarded. But it also made me see that I deserve someone who respects me, who doesn't use me for her own selfish reasons. I don't want to be the guy who gets played anymore. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever trust her again. That betrayal cut too deep, and I doubt I'll ever forgive her for thinking she could lie, cheat, and walk away like nothing happened. But I guess that's part of growing up, learning that some people just aren't worth the pain they cause. After she moved out, I tried to focus on fixing myself. It wasn't easy. I'd been blindsided, completely shattered by her betrayal. For weeks, I kept going over everything in my head: her bitchy smirk when she was caught, how she lied so effortlessly, how she used her looks and her words to manipulate me. The pain was deep, but I knew I had to do something to regain control of my life. As much as I wanted to lash out or drown in anger, I realized I needed to be smarter about this. I started doing some serious thinking about how much of myself I'd given her and how much I'd lost. I also started to see clearly that her manipulative attitude didn't just stop at lying. It was ingrained in her. Her entire personality was about control, about getting her way, and about hiding her true self. She played the victim, cried crocodile tears, and then turned everything around on me. That bitchy attitude, her constant bitching and lying, it all came from her need to dominate, to keep her secrets safe at any cost. In the days that followed, I made a conscious decision. I would stop chasing her. I knew that entertaining any hope of reconciliation was pointless now. Her lies had become so ingrained that I couldn't trust her again, not fully. I wanted to heal, but I also wanted her to feel the consequences of her actions. I started to plan my revenge, not necessarily to hurt her physically, but to make her regret the day she ever crossed me. First, I cut her out of my social circle as much as possible. No more mutual friends, no more updates on her life. I blocked her on everything: phone, email, social media. I wanted to erase her from my mind and my world. That bitchy attitude of hers, her constant lying, it all needed to be gone. I also started to secretly gather more evidence: photos, recordings, anything I could use if I ever needed to remind her of what she did. One day, I decided to send her a message. I didn't want to do it face to face yet. Too much emotion, too much anger. Instead, I sent her a simple text: "You broke me. You lied, cheated, and used me. I hope you're happy with your choice, because I'll never forget what you've done." I wanted her to know I wasn't just going to accept the betrayal. I was going to make her feel guilty, even if from afar. I knew she'd brush it off, call me a fool, but I didn't care. That message was my way of telling her I was done with her games. As days went on, I started to rebuild my life. I threw myself into work, into my friends, into anything that kept my mind busy. I didn't want to dwell on her anymore. But at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something more, something that would make her realize she'd lost the best thing she ever had. I wasn't just mad. I was furious that she had taken everything for granted, that she'd been so bitchy and manipulative, acting like she was the victim when she was the one who cheated. I started to think about ways to make her regret her actions. Maybe I'd reveal everything publicly, expose her to friends and family. Maybe I'd block her from my life completely, cut her out like a cancer. Or maybe I'd just leave her with the knowledge that I knew the truth and I was moving on without her. Whatever I decided, one thing was clear: I wasn't going to let her get away with it. not without paying a price. Honestly, I feel like I've grown tougher from this experience. I used to be naive, trusting her blindly. Now I see that some women, some people, are just manipulative, selfish, and bitchy, willing to lie and cheat just to get what they want. I've learned a harsh lesson about trust, about looking beyond the surface. And I know I'll never be that naive again. I'll rebuild my life and I'll do it smarter, stronger, with a better idea of what I deserve. But inside, I still feel that sting, the loss, the betrayal, and I wonder if I'll ever fully forget it. I just hope that someday I'll look back on this and realize it was a necessary lesson, that I didn't deserve the way she treated me, and that I'll never let a woman like her manipulate me again. Because a woman who's that bitchy, that manipulative, and that willing to cheat, she doesn't deserve my trust, my love, or my life. I just want to find peace and move the hell on. In the end, I stayed true to my decision. I cut all ties, blocked her everywhere, and refused to let her manipulate my mind anymore. The pain still lingers, but I've come to accept it as part of the process. I learned the hard way that some women, bitchy, manipulative, and self-absorbed, are capable of using every tool at their disposal to lie and cheat while hiding behind language barriers, guilt, or whatever else they think will keep them safe. What hurts the most is knowing I was so blind for so long. I gave her everything, my time, my trust, my love, and she repaid me with betrayal, lies, and a level of cruelty that's hard to describe. But I realize now that I deserved better. I deserved someone honest, loyal, and respectful. Instead, I got a woman who was more interested in her own selfish needs, with her false smiles, her bitchy attitude, and her constant lies. She thought she was clever hiding her affair, but in the end, her deception only made her look worse. I've learned to trust myself again. I've learned that I don't need someone who manipulates and plays games, someone who lies about the simplest things and thinks they can get away with it. I've also learned that revenge isn't really about hurting her. It's about reclaiming my own dignity, my peace of mind, and my self-respect. I want to walk away knowing I didn't let her destroy me entirely. I want to know I stood up for myself, even if it meant losing the person I thought was forever. Now I focus on rebuilding my life. I spend more time with friends, I work harder, and I make a conscious effort to be better for myself. I realize that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on, proving to yourself that you're stronger than the pain and that you're worth more than someone's lies and betrayal. I don't hate her. I just see her for what she is, a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could use her beauty and her lies to get ahead, and I'm finally free from her grip. Looking back, I'd tell anyone in a similar situation, whether it's cheating, betrayal, or just feeling like you're losing yourself, to trust your instincts. Gather your proof and don't be afraid to walk away, because nobody deserves to be played like a fool, especially not by someone who claims to love you but uses you instead. I learned that the hard way, but I also learned that I have the strength to start over, to rebuild what was broken, and to find happiness again. And that's what I intend to do.